opinion quote, you can get in touch with us 22422, which is our SMS line, and thank you for staying with us. Well, President Uhuru Kenyatta and NASA leader Raila Odinga in the last 2 days have both been heckled as they ventured into each other's strongholds. It's really the first time on this campaign trail that we've seen such brazen action against them by the public. And tonight I speak to our resident analyst Edward Kisiangani as we leave out politicians from this discussion. Prof, good evening.
Good evening.
And welcome. What do you think first of these developments? Because, you know, over the last few weeks when we saw these leaders both begin to, you know, go out into each other's strongholds, we saw a more receptive public. But now with just a few weeks to the campaign trail, things have changed.
Yeah, they have changed because we are taking the home stretch and we are about to have the election. So the stakes are higher, the anxiety is high, and you expect people to be extremely nervous and sensitive to small things. But also having said that, and we need to examine our country properly. A couple of times we have said, or even on this show, and even asked this question, do we think that our country is more united today than it was in 2013 or 2007? Politicians have been quick to say we are better off, but they have not worked to make us believe that we are better off. Now you can see that this is a time bomb. It is something that is not looking good for us, and yet politicians don't seem to care. And you know, and if you conflate the political philosophies and the practices and even ideas of both NASA and Jubilee, you come out with a fine configuration of political intolerance, egotism, and the bigotry. People don't want to tolerate others, and the problem is that political leaders on both sides have a very high regard of themselves. They have this narcissistic tendency, feeling of self-admiration, exceptional feeling of self-admiration, that they do not care about anybody else. But
to what extent is the public also responsible?
The public has unfortunately handed over their life to politicians, and the politicians just are a few people, and the time has come for our republic, citizens, to start thinking about themselves, setting the agenda for our leaders rather than the leaders setting the agenda for themselves, because these leaders are doing things for their own selfish interest. We have heard people talk about violence and they say we don't want violence. Just a week ago we had a prayer meeting in Nairobi a few days ago, and leaders committed themselves to this kind of peace that we all yearn for. But now you have seen this intolerance, and political intolerance, to be fair to everybody, is a form of violence. And the violence actually undermines, it's an obstacle to the democratic spirit we all yearn for. Nobody cares about that. I was expecting that in the circumstances we are seeing, you know, there was violence in Kisumu. In a sense, intolerance was expressed openly to the president and deputy president. And then, you know, it happened in Baringo. Now we have seen it in Githurai. We have seen it in Thika. It has happened in parts of Murang'a. I was expecting that IEBC, for example, would suspend a few people, probably give a yellow card to the leading political combatants in this election, maybe President Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga, because they must contain their supporters. Their respective political parties should also contain their supporters. This world, the problem with this world, is that a lot of people are so intolerant. We are so intolerant of each other. We are receding, going back to the state of nature, which was the human society before government. That people don't want to understand. They think that when you become intolerant, you are better off, you are popular. But this space, God has created this country, the world has a space for everybody. So we can still compete with ideas. We can still disagree with the others, but we must allow them a chance to speak their point. There was totally no reason why the president or deputy president were heckled in Kisumu. What was the main idea? What were they going to achieve? The president must give his ideas to the public. The public can judge, and on that judgment they can give him the vote or not. He's not forcing anybody to vote for him. the Deputy President Ruto is not forcing anybody to vote for them. Neither is Raila Odinga. When he goes to Murang'a, to Kiambu, to Thika, he has not told you to vote for him by force. He's saying, I have an idea, you help me go with you to the ballot paper and let us implement this idea. But you can still choose not to vote for him. So why would you ban a vehicle? Why would you stone another Kenyan you always meet in Thika with? Every morning you use the same matatu with, in Kithurai. Why do you turn against each other and divide each other into groups that are fighting? What is the ultimate goal of this? What is at stake? Must we fight and kill each other for this? No.
You know,
it's primitive.
That's absolutely true. And you know, there are two sides to this. There's of course that which is fanned by leaders through their statements and sentiments, but there's also the responsibility of the public. And for the purpose of this show, we have left out politicians and perhaps more to speak to the public. What, in your opinion, can be done in terms of getting the supporters of both sides to cool it? Because as you've rightly said, we've had the prayer and peace rallies that have been held. We've heard the penalties that have been meted out on certain politicians by IEBC. But when it comes down to it, regardless of what politicians say, regardless of the money they may be willing to spend to, you know, chase their competitors out of their strongholds, etc., a guest I had this week said at the end of the day, we are their hands and their feet. If we refuse to go and fight, then they have nothing to fight with. What can be done more to, you know, sensitize the public about this?
I don't think the public needs anybody to sensitize them. We have civic duty. People know that breaking the law is wrong. If you discriminate against anybody, remember that defeating tribalism, racism and all forms of discrimination actually liberates all of us, victim and perpetrator. So each one of us has a civic duty to say no to this kind of intolerance, this kind of violence. That's the first level. That at family level, you are a parent, you have some children who probably participate in this stone throwing. Tell them to tolerate others. So it's not even a government matter alone. It is for us as citizens, especially mature citizens who are already in a position where they can call themselves parents, brothers and sisters. You should tell people to keep away from violence and this kind of intolerance. That's the first level. The second level, Anne, is about our institutions. I was watching the clip. Maybe it was misleading. People always say the clips in both you know, Nyanza and even Thika today. Security officers were present when these things are happening. I don't know how many people they have arrested, because this is simply primitive, and the guys who hide in political rallies to throw stones need to be held to account. So I don't know how many criminals. They are criminals. They do not belong to our country. Our country does not have voters who are violent. So we need these institutions also to do that. At the third level, there are election regulations. Some time back, we saw the IEBC trying to punish combatants in the gubernatorial seat, I think, in Migori, and it suspended their campaigns. So we are also expecting that the IEBC, as the referee for this election, will take some action against leaders who they think probably they have evidence. I think the police should have information about this. Try probably to incite people to violence. But if there is
the IBC should find
that's the kind of thing that we really need. But also, you look at the National Cohesion and Integration Commission. It has said it will deal with people who are intolerant to others, who are saying things against everybody. But this group of Kaparo seems to have dissolved into oblivion, because we are not hearing their voice. They probably are still gathering evidence. But suppose now, you know, that the property that was destroyed in the Thika, probably some people were injured. How long can we wait? So institutions should work. We as individual citizens must work. The institutions that are charged with security, the docket, should also work. It's a corporate responsibility for the entire republic to make sure that this election does not take us into a violent mode. Yeah,
and you know, we just have to wind up because we are out of time. But before we just do that? Because you've talked about the institutions and the police response, which today was to lob tear gas and disperse the crowds. And there is always the concern with the police to appear heavy-handed in their response to this. Do you feel that this kind of measured response is the way to go right now, with about 2 or 3 weeks, is it, to the polls, that arrests at this time may have sent the wrong signal, that the hands of the police would be, too heavy in terms of supporters? Or do you think it's time to, lock people up?
I think the police response, a measured response, is correct, because the way the situation is that the political temperatures are very high. But look at what happened in Baringo. The people who were called the former prime minister were caught on camera saying, we had to deal with Raila this way because his people in Kisumu did not actually treat the deputy president well and the president, so they actually say they are retaliatory. I mean, you have even some people speaking on camera like that. Those ones don't need tear gas. They just need you to take them to the police cells and charge them. They are there. Secondly, having seen that revenge mission is occurring in our country, the security officers are, I think, competent enough to identify people who are about to cause trouble before they cause trouble. I thought they would do better now in Githurai, because they would expect probably similar reactions, and deal with that matter. Make sure that even people who are planning such a kind of thing, checking randomly, mixing with everybody and checking who is carrying stones, who is heckling what, who is throwing stones. So arrests could still be made without necessarily lobbing tear gas. Tear gas is an old-fashioned way of dealing with criminals, because sometimes it even hurts those who have not actually participated in it. Generally, they just came to attend a rally and they were going back home, and then you lob tear gas. So I think the security forces have the technical training to deal with that and have certain arrests. So we are expecting probably some kind of arrests, but that is not enough. What I'm saying is that we, as citizens of this country, if, for example, Uhuru Kenyatta becomes our president in August, he's a Kenyan. We really don't have to worry. We shouldn't burn ourselves because we have a candidate we didn't like. If Raila Odinga becomes also the president, he's also a Kenyan. He's also a Kenyan, and he's accepted. So don't try to zone certain areas in this country and say they belong to so and so, and these areas also belong to so and so. So the two gentlemen who have the leading support in this country should come out and tell their supporters that, in fact, by being intolerant, they don't support their philosophies. I don't think any of them has come out to say, I stand for peace. And if you are saying that in the name of Uhuru, you are acting the name of Uhuru, you are acting the name of Raila, you are supporting a different Raila, not me. You are supporting a different Uhuru, not me. But if some people want to justify that and probably come to national television and the newspapers to say, you see, we are doing this because we are revenging, there is no room for that kind of activity in our country.
Let's take your feedback now, and thank you for sending it in even as we wind up. Competition is healthy, but style adopted brings the difference. When one side adopts violence, the rival is likely to scale up equally. Let both leaders preach peace to their supporters and tell them to allow others to campaign wherever in the country. Political intolerance should be a thing of the past. It's archaic and barbaric. Where is the voice of the church? Where is the civil society? They have turned a blind eye on Kenya. We need to hear their voice. All that chaos must be condemned by all parties. We must practice maturity in politics. And, we left out the politicians tonight, albeit deliberately, as we talked about this, and we hope the Republic has heard us. Pop, thank you.
Thank you.
We're in the home stretch.
Yes.
Are you ready?
I'm ready, and I'm excited about it. I feel good. We are going to have some winner. There is somebody in State House. It can be Uhuru, it can be Raila. Both ways, we are comfortable. These are our people. And if you don't want them, choose another person.
Thank you for coming.
Asante.
Thank you for watching. God bless you. Have a wonderful weekend ahead. I'm Anne Kigucha. Good night.